Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello. This is Wednesday morning, and that means it's time for the Ageless Blueprint. And I am Dr. Taylor, and I am the hormone doctor and the spiritual MD. And I did a podcast last week, and we talked about relationships, and really it was talking about how do you change the future, and it's really about changing the relationships between parents or mothers and fathers or spouses, because really when you really think about it, even that picture about the guy who we met in Egypt, we talk about what is the blueprint, and the Ageless Blueprint is really that two people get together, they have children, they raise those children. And what we've talked about in the past, we're going to talk about today, is that you have a blueprint that's imprinted upon you in the first 7 years of your life. And is really a reflection of the relationship of your caretakers or your parents. Sometimes caretakers can be an aunt or, a grandparent if there's a bad situation at home. So you have to think that blueprint has been started from, beginning generations, so one generation, they raise children and they imprint that blueprint. And if you're not aware of that, you begin to follow the blueprint of your parents. And you say, well, what blueprint did they follow? They followed the blueprint of their parents. Well, what blueprint? So if you don't consciously change that blueprint, you're going to keep living a life, and your children are going to live a life that has been passed down through the ages. So what we're going to talk about today is once you're aware of that, then you can change it. It's hard for you to change things that you are unaware of. And that blueprint is put in your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind runs 95% of what you do. So if that blueprint is running 95% of your life, you need to be comfortable with that blueprint, and you need to know what that blueprint is. And so a lot of times when two people are running a blueprint that has been passed down through generations, those blueprints somehow have to mesh, and they have to come together, and they have to resolve the differences of those blueprints and come up with their own blueprint. So that's what we're going to talk about. How do you become aware of that? And how do you make your own blueprint? And so that's what we're going to talk about. And here's the crazy thing is that a lot of times you're attracted to people who really just bring up those issues that have caused you problems in the childhood. You end up being attracted to that because it's familiar to you. You don't know why it's familiar, but it is. Okay, so let's go to the slides, Rebel. Okay, let me make that bigger so I can see. Okay, there we go. All right. So here's the big question. So we all know that, hey, everybody who's over 12 years old, they've felt that romantic love. Okay. And that romantic love usually lasts about 18 months. And that's when you think that other person is the best thing that ever happened to you. And a lot of times you're attracted to them because they have some of the same wounds that you have. So if you talk about an energetic level or just a chemistry level, you see something that's familiar, she reminds you of something, and you actually will say, hey, look, it feels like I've been knowing you all my life, all this stuff. You are really being attracted to that blueprint. That's what you're really being attracted to. And there's all kinds of theories about this, why we attract each other. and all this. But here's what always happens after that 18 months, that old blueprint starts to show up. Okay. Those things that were hurt and wounded in your childhood, they begin to show up. And what happens is when they show up, and remember the other person's familiar to you, you start to think that that other person is, or your partner is making you feel like that, those uncomfortable feelings that you had. And so there's always this point. So over time, the spark turns into friction, because I told you, you get those two blueprints that are trying to heal. And that's what a relationship is supposed to do. Heal those childhood wounds. That's a lot of theories say that. So many couples get stuck in that power struggle. Instead of trying to come up and trying to heal those wounds and get their own blueprint, they get stuck just fighting and all of these, they just get stuck. They don't realize what's happening to them. And then that causes stress. And what my theory is that stress just amplifies everything. So it's very hard to get through that conflict when you're dealing with that stress and you're dealing with hormones that are dysregulated. And so that it almost becomes impossible. You're not aware of what's happening. Your hormones are crazy. So that's what we're going to talk about. So why do we start in chemistry and end in conflict? Because initially, when you see something familiar, you get that bonding hormone called oxytocin. You get serotonin, dopamine. You get this dopamine hit every time you see or you feel so alive and so satisfied or whatever. But that's all chemistry, okay? And so that chemistry changes with time, and the relationship changes with time, because when all of that wears off, you start to see who that person really is, and some of those old wounds start to come up and show up, and then that's what causes the conflict. All right. And see, it's also, men and women are just different. But believe me, I've read all the relationship books, because being an OBGYN and being a man, I read a lot of these books about relationships and how men and women communicate to each other. And I will tell you that this helped me a lot in my relationship. This is really from Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. The author is John Gray, and he talks about how men and women have different emotional needs and have different communication ways to communicate. So men, they want to be respected. They want to be admired. They want their woman to be proud of them. So they do things. They play football. They do all these things because they want their woman to be proud of them. But what a woman really wants is to be understood. And I always say, no man really understands a woman. It's just because we have just two different brains. But women want you to feel their emotions. They want to be understood. They want to feel love. We want to feel respected. And we don't really feel, we just want them to look and think and react to us like we're respected, because we really don't understand emotions. And we have to open up and be more emotional in order to understand our wives. And believe me, I've been married for 40 years. I will tell you that I only opened up emotionally in these last 2 or 3 years, and that has really changed our relationship. And I just feel bad that it took me 38 years of marriage to actually understand this. All right. So, but the missing piece is that when stress is involved, problems become huge fights. Right. So this is the power struggle we're talking about. We pick partners who match old childhood patterns. Now, we don't know it, but that's what happens. All right. So it explains. So then 2, conflict shows up so we can grow. And I will tell you that is the key, is that the other person in your life is really there to help you to grow. And I've finally realized that in my relationship, because what happened is that after I finished medical school and did my residency, I felt like, oh, I finally made it. I had my practice and all these things. And then my wife came to me and said I wasn't passionate about anything. Now, initially, she was attracted to me because I wasn't passionate, that I was calm and stable. And she felt like she had a life that was not as stable. So she wanted something. I said, so then I'm stable. That's what she was attracted to. But then when I was too stable, I was boring. So anyway, she challenged me, but you know what? I grew. I grew. That's when we wrote our books, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? And the stress connection, because she challenged me to say I needed to be passionate about something. And I became passionate about bioidentical hormones. And that is what led me here. And that's what we're talking about. Conflict should help you to grow. But a lot of times, because when they say something like that, I will tell you, I felt disrespected. I was like, how can you say that? I've done all these things. But she wanted to feel my passion. And so that's something, now that took me a while to understand, but that's something I had to understand. So just think about that, you guys. So a lot of times is the reason why we have these problems is that because we may have had attachment problems when we were growing up. If you didn't feel attached to your caretaker, then you're going to be someone who feels insecure, and you're going to want to cling to that person, and the person will say, "Oh, you're too clingy." All right. If people feel secure when they fear losing love or pull away. But what's missing is, why do we react differently in hard times? Okay, that's easy to do when you're in love, but when you're in hard times, it becomes very difficult. Okay, so why the missing piece? Why heavy stress make these reactions worse? Because stress comes in, it disrupts your hormones, it disrupts how you react, it disrupts how you respond because you're in this survival mode. All right. And then there's something about the biology of belief. This is Bruce Lipton, and he says hidden beliefs guide most of your behavior. He's the one that talks about how you're hypnotized the first 7 years of your life. Whatever you see becomes imprinted in your subconscious mind, because you can't filter it and say, "Oh, that's good. I don't want to do that." You just absorb it all, and then it becomes a blueprint. It becomes a pattern for your life. So that explains why we repeat the same patterns. Some people in the religious world, they call it a generational curse, but it's not, it may not be a generational curse. It may be just we're unconsciously repeating patterns that we've seen. And that's why I'm talking about, you may be repeating a pattern from a generation, 4 generations back, and that just got repeated over and over again. And see, your thoughts change how your body works. So how stress hormones change how you treat your partner. See, you need to understand that even though all of this belief and all of this is that when stress comes in, it just makes everything harder to deal with. So a lot of these theories, they're really psychological. They talk about how to communicate better, how to understand each other better. They even talk about Harvey Hendricks. He gives guided meditations, how you want to imagine how your relationship should be. And I will tell you that that's part of what I did when I did this reality creator, is I imagined how I wanted to improve my relationship. But the missing piece is that we talk about the mind, and I'm all about body, mind, and spirit. But a lot of these theories about mind and spirit, and they don't put the body piece in there. And that's what I'm talking about, measuring stress. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. So if stress is an issue, you need to be aware of that. You've got to correct that, or your relationship is going to not be complete, and you're going to stay in that power struggle, because neglecting the hormones and the stress is just going to keep you stuck right there. Now, you have 2 issues there, all right? When you're stuck, you can either split apart, but if you don't go through that power struggle, here's what you're going to do. You're not going to grow. So what are you going to do? You're going to attract someone who's just like that. You're going to have 18 months of bliss. Then you're going to go through a power struggle. And that's why people get divorced over and over again, because they're not aware of what is actually going on. And you always got to say, the common denominator in any relationship is you. Some of my slides didn't come over. A lot of my slides didn't come over. All right, here we go. So what almost no one talks about, few experts talk about the stress hormones. And that's the difference with me. I'm trying to, usually I'm a doctor. So you're like, hey, you need to talk about the body. And so that's what we are going to talk about. I was trying to expand and talk about mind and spirit. Well, there's a lot of people doing that. But what I want to do is put it all together. All right. So few experts talk about stress hormones. Almost no one measures the body's physical state. All right. So that's what I'm talking about. This saliva cortisol testing to measure stress and to look at hormones by measuring it and not just guessing. That's what can bring this all together and can get you through the power struggle, because you're not amplifying everything because you're stressed. So stress makes every relationship problem feel louder. A stressed body easily ruins connections. So what could be a simple sit down, let's talk, let's see where we can come together on this and figure out a new blueprint. See, when stress is involved, anything a woman says to a man, he can take it as disrespect. And anything that a man says to a woman, she can take it as you don't understand me. And it just makes it where that's the baseline, but the stress just amplifies it. So the real world example, let's just look at the real world. So I actually have a patient who's a marriage counselor, and this is what really got me into this. And she came to me because somebody had put her on too much estrogen. Okay, she was gaining weight, she was irritable, she didn't, she's a marriage counselor, and it's causing problems with her and her marriage, and she feels like it's causing a problem with her practice. So anyway, she took too much estrogen. I did a saliva test on her. Her estrogen, which shouldn't be more than 4, hers was 6. Her estrogen ratio was out of balance, her cortisol was out of balance, and we corrected her. Okay, and all of her issues became fine. Okay. So she started to lose weight. But here's what she realized. She said, you know what? I have been in the marriage counseling business for 20, 30 years. And she said, I knew that these couples coming in at 40, 50, who had been married for 20 years, I knew it was a hormone problem because I could tell their personalities had changed. They were more aggressive, all these. And I would send them to a doctor. They would get their blood work, and it would all come back normal. And then so I'm trying to fix this psychological problem, this relationship problem. And now she realizes she was right. Her intuition told her they had hormone problems. They were just getting, the hormone problems were getting measured the wrong way. And so nobody was aware of that. So this is a real life example. Fixing her hormones cleared her mind, and it allowed her to look back at the other patients or clients that she had seen and said, that was probably an issue with them because she was in their age group. I think she was late 50s, early 60s. So she could relate to all of them. And then, so that's how important this is. And remember, this is how you change that blueprint. This is how you change the next generation, is by understanding this, getting your hormones straight, getting all this together so that you can have a relationship that can be passed on, that you can be proud of. All right. So the hidden amplifier, stress makes your reactions much bigger. If you ever seen me talk about a cortisol curve, if you have the normal amount of cortisol, you can handle stress. You can handle mild stress. You can even handle moderate stress. But when you have been in a high stress situation for a long time, and that's what that power struggle is, because you just have to think, once you get married, now you got to have this power struggle of who's going to take out the garbage. Are we going to have kids? What church are we going to go to? What school are we going to send our kids to? How are we going to get our kids into college? Who's going to help with the homework? You have all of these power struggles. But as this goes on, and as you get more and more stressors, it wears you down. And as you get older, your hormones change. So high stress makes you feel less safe. So now a neutral face suddenly looks critical. So now when she says, why didn't you take out the garbage? Now that's a fight because you don't respect me. You expect me to do all this. I'm doing all of that. So that's what happens in that power struggle. And the key is, can you manage your hormones? Can you measure and balance your hormones so that you don't amplify this normal power struggle in the relationship? It will happen. Romantic love does not last forever. We know that. we see all of these Hollywood couples. They usually last for about 2 years because they are really attracted to an image, and they don't. I won't say. I won't generalize, but it's difficult for them to go through a power struggle because they have all of the stress of the world is watching, and they have to go off and be with, be away from their partner for a long time. So let me keep going. So here's the real problem. Most of the time you have two highly stressed people because they've been stressed from their childhood blueprint, and now they've gotten together, they've had this romantic experience, and what happens after 18 months, that all dies down. So now the real person comes. Now you see all of the negative traits and you see everything. And then you go through the power struggle, and that just increases everything. So you got two highly stressed people trying to talk will almost always cause a bigger fight. Okay. So you can't go into this in this state of mind, because at this state of mind, you are just in the survival mode. The frontal lobe, your executive part of your brain that filters what you say and what you think, it is turned off. All you can do is react. You don't respond in a logical, non-emotional way. You are just all about fight or flight. And when you get into that, nothing good is going to happen. Okay. So somehow you have to regulate yourself in the moment. And it's a lot easier to do it when your baseline hormone pattern is normal. Okay. So even when your baseline hormone pattern is normal, these situations can still arise. But you have to be able to say, wait a minute, let me turn off this reptilian brain that's only trying to survive and only trying to win this particular fight and not thinking about winning in this overall relationship. And that's what happens when you're under stress. You just think about the right here and now. I just got to survive this moment. To heck with the relationship. I'm going to win this fight. That's the problem. All right. So how do you quiet your mind? How do you get out of that fight or flight? And what is going to make you more susceptible to it? Well, this is what I will tell you. And this is the problem as you get older. Sleep is the absolute foundation of a healthy relationship. Okay? Is that if you don't sleep, you are going to not recover. That's what causes that wired and tired and wired part of the cortisol curve, is that when you don't get adequate sleep, your morning cortisol goes down. That morning cortisol is your stress hormone. It mobilizes glucose, so you have the energy to get through the stressors. So, but if you don't sleep, that morning cortisol goes down. So now you're tired all day. When you're tired, you're not going to be able to be reasonable and logical and non-emotional because you're tired and you can't handle the stress. So now, like I said, a small little, upshoot of the eyebrow, you think that you're being disrespected, or you don't listen to her because you're so tired you can't even comprehend what she's saying, and so you say something that shows her you weren't listening, and then she says you never listen. So this is kind of the vicious cycle we go through. So patience, poor sleep lowers your patience. Also, negativity is increased when you're tired. Being tired makes you focus on the negative. We always, I'll tell you, men always say when women get into an argument, they bring up things from 20, 30 years ago. Well, that's probably because she's tired. And so then the negative, the reason why I want to fight or flight comes to the forefront. All right. So you think about all of the things that he has done or she has done, and you start to focus on that instead of just thinking about the present moment. What is going on right now? What are we fighting about right now? What is the issue right now? Is not about what happened 20 years ago when you said something or you forgot her birthday or whatever. And I'm not trying to minimize that, but I'm just saying it becomes a bigger issue when you are tired, or when you are when your cortisol is out of balance, or when your estrogen or progesterone is out of balance. All right. And then, so now you've had all of those stressors, and I'll tell you, these midlife changes are either early life changes. I will tell you is that you can go through this romantic love for the first 18 months. And then if you have a child or you have children, that is a big stress change and a big hormonal change. The maternal instinct is real. I would say when I was lecturing is that once a woman has a child, then her focus is totally on the well-being of those children. And a lot of times men feel neglected and disrespected. And so now we have this communication issues. The man doesn't understand that, hey, for those 18 months, it was all about me. Now we have this child and you seem to have forgotten about me. And that's something that men and women need to understand, is that is a big inflection point, is when you have children. And then once you go through that power struggle, and then once the children leave, that's another big midlife change. So hormone changes makes relationships feel unstable. All right. Now, we all know that, hey, I'm the hormone doctor. And I'm telling you, at these points, maternal instinct, hormones change. When perimenopause and menopause, hormones change. And what happens is, and this is what I keep trying to get across, just like the lady who was on too much estrogen, what decreases in perimenopause and menopause is not estrogen. It's progesterone. You stop ovulating. Progesterone is an anti-anxiety, anti-depression hormone. So if you are anxious and depressed during perimenopause, here's what happens. You think that your partner is making you anxious and depressed, but it's really your hormones. And you have stacked on 20 years of this power struggle. So that 20 years of power struggle has caused your cortisol to get dysregulated. So that's why a lot of times in this midlife, after 20 years, 40, 50, 60-year-olds, they think that this is incompatibility, but it's really a midlife change. It's going through the power struggle. And then at the end of the power struggle, everybody's hormones change. The man's hormones change, the woman's hormones change. And this sometimes is just a point of no return. They just said, this is not getting better, it's getting worse. And so people take the divorce route. That's why divorce has gone up by 35%. Now, what do you think that does to your kids? Okay. So even though they have gone through that hypnotic stage, they still are part of that relationship. So they see that relationship change and so that gets imprinted. Okay. Is that how my relationship is going to be? A lot of people don't get married and don't have children because they've seen that blueprint. And they're like, the only way I can not repeat that is just not to have children. Okay. And that's what a lot of people are thinking. I think that's why the birth rate has gone down. It's like, no, I don't want to repeat that. So either you can become conscious and change it, or you just say, I'm just not going to get involved at all. All right. So dropping hormones strip away your emotional buffer. Normal differences suddenly feel impossible to handle. And I really believe that's what is going on. But what we want to talk about is the growth foundation. How can we use that power struggle? Because you're going to go through it. How can you use that power struggle to actually grow your relationship instead of destroy your relationship? And even if the relationship doesn't grow, if you make a decision about leaving the relationship, making sure it's the relationship and not your hormones. The reason why I say that is that I'm telling you, I've had several patients, not just a few, several patients say, if I had known this before I got a divorce, I probably wouldn't have gotten a divorce. So I'm saying this from experience, okay, is that this is important. If before you make a big decision, that's going to be my last slide here after the break. It's before you make a big decision, make sure that you are thinking clearly, make sure that your hormones and your stress hormone hasn't turned off your executive part of the brain and allowed you to make reactive decisions instead of responsible decisions. So I know it's time for a break, and then we're going to talk more about how can we get through that power struggle and grow our relationships and create a good blueprint to pass along to future generations. All right, let's go to break.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the ageless blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
All right, I'm back. You know, I hope you saw that picture of, that's when we were in Egypt, and there was a guy named Rami, and he had lived in the mountains of Petra for 500 years. His grandmother lived to be like 106. And let me tell you, talking to this guy made me feel so at ease. He was the epitome of no stress. And just think, for 500 years, his family has been there. And that's a blueprint. He doesn't know anything else. That's his blueprint. And he's passed that on. They've passed that on for 500 generations. And that's what I'm talking about. These blueprints, and that's a 500-year-old blueprint, but they have followed that. And he's peaceful. They work with nature. He said that the animals take care of us. We take care of the animals. And, so that's just, I just want you to see that there's different people live different ways, and there are ways to live stress-free. He has kids. He talks about, because they live in the mountains, that the kids live with the grandmother for the first 2 or 3 years until he or she can climb up into the mountains. And that's why I would say, there are different blueprints, and you can change your blueprint. You don't have to go live in the mountains of Petra, but your blueprint can change if you don't like what your blueprint is. He likes his blueprint, so he's going to carry it, carry it on. But if you don't like your blueprint, if you can become aware and you can get your hormones right, so you can make good decisions, and you guys can get together and you can help each other grow. And that's what's happened in our relationship. I hope I've helped her grow, but I know she's helped me grow, because let me tell you, the only reason why I'm doing this ageless blueprint is because my wife challenged me again to grow. She said, hey, you should go out and speak. And she said, I know that wore you out. And I really was burnt out from traveling and speaking. But she said, there's a new way to do this. I see other guys on here talking about this type of information, and you know it better than they do. And so she challenged me, and I grew, and our relationship grew, because we were balanced and we could understand each other. But that doesn't come easy. I told you, we've been married 40 years. And I feel like we just really developed a really mature love in the last 2 years, because we both became aware of ourselves, and we began to accept each other as actually different people, and not trying to make the other person be just like us. That's a lot of times what happens. So here's that midlife collision. I got a little bit ahead of myself. Older couples often think that they just fell out of love, but usually it's a crash of high stress and shifting hormones. Old pain surfaces when the body is too tired to cope. So all of those past hurts and things, they end up coming up again. And then you start to think, hey, why am I feeling like this? It's really from a past hurt, past something that happened when you were unaware in your subconscious. And somehow when these hormones get dysregulated, all of that stuff comes up, and you can't filter it out to say, no, it's not my spouse, it's this. And if the partnership grows, you will be able to heal each other's hurts. And according to Hendricks, that's what real Relationships are for to help heal each other, provide the other person what they did not get when they were a developing child. All right. But again, I think all of those theories are great, but man, it really is a challenge when this is going on. So couples mistake the tired physical reaction for the truth. So you're tired, your hormones are out of whack, and you just say it's the relationship because the relationship was good. And when you say what you've changed, well, yes, you guys, both of you guys have changed, but you have to use that change to help advance the relationship. So one of the guys, I think it's Hendricks, he talks about you don't ask what the relationship can do for you, you ask what you can do for the relationship. The relationship is more important than the individual. When we were raising our kids, we were like, we have to go on date nights, we have to do some of this stuff because if our relationship breaks down, the whole family unit breaks down. So somehow my wife understood that early, and now I'm just giving you the science behind it. All right. So the way forward is that relationships do not mature with time. They mature with regulation under stress. And this is an issue, is that early on when my wife and I got married, we said we were going to take divorce off the table. I said that last week. You got to take divorce off the table. But that's not the only thing. That means you're committed. That means that I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stay here through thick and thin. Right? I'm committed. We have taken divorce off the table. Well, that's great. But just being committed doesn't mean that you have a mature love. Committed says, even though we argue, even though we fight, even though I don't feel like you really respect me, even though I feel like you don't really understand me, I'm not a quitter. So I'm just going to stay here. So you end up having this kind of loveless, we're both roommates kind of relationship, which really isn't love. Okay. It's commitment. It's just like I've committed to show up to work. You can commit to work, but you might not love work. All right. So commitment is great. That's why you say the vows and everything. But love matures over time. It takes time. It takes going through the rough times. We've had times, we've been married 40 years. You're going through your parents getting sick, your parents dying, maybe a sibling passed away, lost a job, got a job, all of these things. But if you can go through those together, take the highs, take the lows, don't automatically go for the off ramp when a conflict happens. I'm telling you, if you go through that and you mature together, it really can be a beautiful thing. And I'm telling you is that if I tell people, if you can hang in there, it can be beautiful. And I'm telling you, this is from me. And I'm just talking about, we've always been committed to each other. We've always loved each other. Okay. And that's the reason why we stayed. Okay. We loved each other. But mature love is really, really when you grow and you're able to heal and you're able to understand each other. It's almost hard to explain because it's really kind of new to me, is the difference between commitment and true mature love. All right. So here's the growth framework. Here's how you can grow your marriage, how you can both grow together, and the relationship makes both of you guys better. It's not about someone being superior to the other. It's that you're both involved in this relationship that is enhancing you and everyone around you. It enhances your kids. It enhances who you work with because you're not bringing stress from work home and you're not bringing stress from home to work. Okay. You've got a stable life. You go home and there's peace. And I'll tell you, all men, they just want peace. Okay. And women want understanding. All right. So staying calm under stress builds mature love. And I really do believe that. Okay. Is that stress is what makes you grow. You got to think nothing grows. Everything gets stressed in order to grow. Okay. Is that you have to put a seed in the ground, take it away from the sunlight, stress it. And then it wants to grow and go into the sunlight. Okay. And then you'll have flowers. If they want to grow, they have to turn toward the sunlight. Okay, so it's all about, you have to, and even if we sell adrenocare glandula, it's about these adaptogens that can grow in stressful situations. Ginseng, rhodiola, cordyceps. I just thought about this. These adaptogens that help you to better adapt to stress. Everybody's heard of ashwagandha, ginseng, all of those. The reason why those are adaptogens is because they grow in stressful situations. They can grow on mountaintops in cold weather. So it's all about stress makes things grow and makes things resilient. So your relationship will grow when it can work its way through stress. If you cannot stay calm, conflicts repeat forever. That's why I'm talking about that ageless blueprint. It is that these conflicts just keep repeating, and they can go from generation to generation because your children see the conflict, it gets into the subconscious mind, they repeat the same conflict, right? Real growth happens after surviving the power struggle. And again, everyone is going to have the power struggle if you stay in a relationship. It is just how Mother Nature wants you to grow. It is a part of the plan. And Hendricks says that Mother Nature is, and I believe this, the universe, the quantum field, God, however you want to call it, there is order to this. And the order of relationships is, I'm going to put people who unconsciously need each other, I'm going to make them for 18 months just be so attracted to each other. They have to come together because they need to go through the power struggle to heal their childhood. Because in this quantum field physics, I told you that's kind of what opened my eyes to all this, is that in the quantum field, it's saying that every memory is in this quantum field. So if that's the case, your subconscious remembers your childhood, and nature wants everything to heal and grow. Is that when you cut your finger, your body automatically heals it. When you break a leg, your body will heal it. And so some of the thought is that you're attracted because you're trying to heal the wounds, the cuts, the scars from your childhood. Nature wants you to heal, so it puts you in a relationship that through conflict, through the power struggle, will help you to heal and to grow, because nature wants everything to grow. That's kind of, when I first heard it, it was like, man, that's wild. But yeah, everything wants to grow. Okay. So so for the human species to grow, what has to happen? You have to be attracted. You have to go through. And for the human species to grow, you have to get through those power struggles and change the blueprint so that the next generation can grow from what you learned and how you grew your relationship. So working through hard times together deepens love. The song says, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. That's right, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of things that can happen that can try and kill a relationship. But if you can get through it, it will make you stronger. All right. So let's redefine compatibility. It's not about always being comfortable. It means staying calm while growing together. So you think compatibility means, oh, we like the same things, we do the same. That's what happens with romantic love. Oh, he likes peanut butter and I like peanut butter. Isn't that so great? That's not it. Okay. It means staying calm while growing together. You must feel safe to be yourself. Couples must learn to recover quickly after a fight. And again, I told you that love grows when you finally accept a person for who they are and not for who they pretended to be when they were courting or who they're trying to be to keep the conflict down. When you feel safe, you are free to just relax and be yourself and know that your partner's not going to criticize you or be negative towards you. In the relationship information I was reading, they say you have to take away all negativity, all the little weird little faces that you make, the sounds, the rolling of your eyes. You have to remove all of that. And once you accept the person as they are, it becomes easy, because whatever they do, you're like, okay, that is them and this is me. He talks about you have to understand that you are married are in a relationship with a person who is different from you and stop trying to make them just like you. So we need to stop the damage. Never make permanent choices when highly stressed. That's why I'm saying those women come and say, oh, if I'd have known this, I wouldn't have divorced my husband or my wife. You have to take a planned pause when a fight gets too hot. You gotta be able to step away. My wife and I figured out how to fight. If we started raising our voices, we would say, let's just stop, let's go away, let's go to our neutral corners, and then let me think without having this constant feedback, and let me come back and let's try and be reasonable. Stop trying to fix things when you feel threatened. You're not going to solve a problem while you guys are both at this heightened stress state. And wait till your body is calm and rested, even if you have to sleep on it. They talk about don't go to sleep angry. Well, sometimes you need to let your subconscious figure things out. Not going to sleep angry, but just say, hey, we're going to pick this up tomorrow when we're not tired, when we both not hungry, and then let's talk about it. All right. All right. Clarity first, decision second. First, repair your sleep and lower stress. Lower the feeling of threat in your body. Then look at your relationship with a clear mind. Decisions should always come from a calm truth. And my whole idea is you cannot manage what you cannot measure. So you need to measure your hormones. That's what we talk about. So please, as always, I would love for you to join my school group. All of my links are right there. You can follow me on TikTok. I'll be doing TikTok live. I'm at the Hormone Doctor. I do TikTok live every Wednesday after this at 11 o'clock. This is where I see the problems. There's so many people on TikTok and Facebook trying to figure all of this stuff out. And the reason why I know it because a lot of these people have hormone problems, and they talk about how it's causing them problems with their relationships. So join me on TikTok, join my school group. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Ageless Blueprint 1. Comment, ask me questions. I tried to answer the questions from last week. I hope I did that. Rebel, you have any questions? Anybody have any questions today?
They had some questions, but you answered them as you went along.
Okay, I tried to. So I tried to look at the questions last week, and I said, let me try and put it all together. But this is, I'm trying to just impress upon you that when we wrote that book, The Stress Connection, I really didn't understand completely how much it was connected. But stress does cause problems. And the reason why we wrote that book is because we understood that hormones alone, or just looking at estrogen, progesterone in women or testosterone in men, didn't give us the clear picture. And now almost every cortisol curve or cortisol test I do, it's abnormal because I was just looking at something last night, and it was just showing some situations at food banks and whatever, because a lot of the subsidies have gone away. And this guy was saying, hey, everybody feels like they're in survival mode. That's not a good thing, okay? Because no one can be reasonable when they're in survival. No one's really thinking clearly when they're in survival. So we need to identify that in each person. And that is how we're going to calm down some of this tension that we all feel. And whether you admit it or not, we all feel it. And so it's affecting us. And you need to be able to figure out how to combat it. And that's why I'm putting this information out. And that's why I'm talking about adaptogens and all of these things to help you to correct that cortisol flow and correct your hormones so that you can live life to the fullest and not run this blueprint that is going to disrupt your life and maybe disrupt the lives of future generations. So that's the Ageless Blueprint tip of the day. Is if you want to change the future, change yourself, okay? Look at yourself. Look at the stress. Look at how you're thinking, how you're reacting. And that can change your relationship, and it can change your blueprint. All right, so that's the close. We got, 20 seconds left. Anything else, Rebel, I need to talk about? I tried to tell everybody how they can continue this information and join my school group. I'm really going to try and make it where you can go there and really get more and more information about all of these things we're talking about. All right. Anything else, Rebel?
Just real quick, tell people where they can get the saliva test.
Oh, go in school group, you can do it. It's everywhere. If you go to my TikTok, I have it there. DM me, leave a comment. I'll show you exactly how. But if you join my school group, it's a stepwise fashion. Start here, do this, order the test. Here's how you get your results. Join my school group. It's all right there. Just start at the start here and move forward. And if you join school, I look at that. I always see the messages. I always respond. So that's how you can kind of stay a little bit closer, is join the school group. And I have different courses and things in there, and I'm building it all the time. So, but I'll see you next Wednesday, and hopefully I'll see you on one of the other platforms.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and TaylorMDFormulations.com for more information.